What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Game Day Playbook Show. We are taking a look at today's 13-game main slate. James had your playbook out nice and early for y'all today, so you can go check that out over on the Fantasy Alarm site. But we're here to give you all the latest news and updates for your lineup builds. James, my friend, how are we doing today, man?
We're doing pretty good. 13 games in any DFS sport is a lot of information. Yeah. I like it incredibly more when, one, I'm not dealing with cores, two, I'm not dealing with much weather, and three, when there's not like, oh, this pitcher is the best pitcher of the day at $10,000, because that divvies up ownership. That makes it more interesting. That suggests like, well, maybe we're spending more offensively today than we are on the mound, right? So I've had a lot of fun with today's build, some contrarian stacks that I like, some fun stuff going on. So I liked ultimately the 13 game breakdown, and I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, we talked about this doing the preview show, obviously, this morning here. Looking at the pitcher pool and where there isn't that, Tyler Glasnow or, yesterday for worse, Zach Gallen, where it's like, all right, you have to play this guy because he is the clear-cut favorite on the slate, money-wise, rostership-wise. We're going to be updating the rostership here during the show, but just a quick look right now. We have three starting pitchers all around 20% here today, James. I'll pull up the player pool for the pitching position here. We go position by position. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you haven't already hit that like button, that reshare button over on X, way to support the work we do here on the Fantasy Alarm channel. We appreciate, again, everyone tuning in. Ronald Blanco, 10-1. Dylan Cease, $9,800. Tanner Houck, Tyler Beebe, Brandon Wu, Ryan Wu, rather, whole crew here up over $9,000. You can kind of pick and choose the way you're going with your lineup builds.
Yeah. So there's one name I wrote up in today's playbook from this tier.
Yeah.
Two I have in my player pool. I did not include Ronel Blanco. I did not include Dylan Cease. I did not include Tanner Bybee. Did not include Pablo Lopez. Tanner Houck was included. Brian Wu was written up.
Okay.
So I like, as you know, you and I did the breakdown last night. I think you and I were both kind of out on this tier in general because we liked expensive bats.
Yes.
The more I looked into Brian Wu, the more I started to, the appeal started to come to me. He gets a matchup against the Angels. Obviously, the Angels thrive against left-handed pitching. Well, Brian Wu does not throw from the left side. Last I checked, he's a righty. So they're bottom 10 in OPS and WOBA. And, let's not forget, at the beginning of the year, Mike Trout existed in the world too. So those numbers are a little skewed. Almost a 24% strikeout rate, which is 11th highest in the league against right-handed pitching. And I think you and I touched on it where like Brian Wu's coming off this weird one strikeout game.
Yeah.
But we also talked about how Washington since the start of baseball, since they became the Washington Nationals, they just don't strike out. No matter who's in their lineup, no matter it doesn't matter. They just don't strike out. And you look at Wu from last year, this is a guy who's been over a strikeout per inning since that time. And now you get a matchup at home in a very good ballpark for pitchers against the bottom 10 team in offense against right-handed pitching. And I think that's a recipe for success. The only thing against working against him is the pitch count. But he's one of four Mariners that just don't walk people. This staff just doesn't pitch deep into counts and are crazy economical. Kirby's the most efficient pitcher ever. So is Logan Gilbert's there. And so Brian Wu has 2 walks in his first 4 starts, hasn't thrown more than 80 pitches, but he's still gotten through 6 innings in each of his last 2 starts. And one of them was 6 scoreless against the Yankees. And obviously that's, as good as it gets considering what the Yankees offense has been. So
yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting again looking at the rostership here. For DraftKings specifically, mentioning three guys that were the top priced in terms of ownership. Two of them are under $10,000 or $9,000 rather, because we talked about the mid tier. One cover of today's show is Walker Buehler. The other is a guy that I was high on in Reynaldo Lopez. Cease is getting some love. He's the second highest rostered pitcher on today's slate. Walker Buehler is number one, though. I was a little iffy on him initially on the show this morning. You kind of talked me, through some good stats out there as to reasonings to why he's a good play today. We still in on Walker Buehler today?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, for basically the same reasons. I mean, first off, the 91 pitches last outing is the most important thing because now we're not really worried about any type of limitation, right? We
Yeah.
went from high 70s to 90s. Once you hit that 90 mark, it's like all systems go at that point. I mean, he still has Dave Roberts as his manager at the end of the day. That's still a thing. And we know how tentative he can be at times. But 91 pitches is a great sign for Buehler. And on the road, Colorado is 24th in OPS and they have a 25% strikeout rate. So get them away from Coors Field. They are not the same team. And it's really that simple. And I'm actually kind of surprised that the ownership is like that. Like, I think you and I were split in terms of, and then I think you came around more so, obviously, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect it to be he's the highest rostered pitcher. I think Lopez and I almost thought Berrios would get a lot of ownership too in this mid tier. But obviously that's not the case. But I'm willing to eat the Walker Buehler chalk, especially with the matchup and with the pitch count where it is.
Yeah, you can go get the updated ownership over on FanStorm right now. It is live. You'll see Walker Buehler up there. Three guys up over 19%. It's Buehler, Cease, and Reynaldo Lopez. Tanner Bybee coming in at 16% there, rather, as well. So, for value, I liked Jose Soriano. He's the one guy basically under 8K that's getting any sort of notoriety as well, but only around 10%. So a lot of people, actually, I just updated now. So Buehler and Cease around 21%, actually, and then it goes down to Lopez at 16%. Jose Soriano is 10%. Brian Wu is 11% there. So, it seems like a lot of people are set on going Buehler, Cease, and then throwing in a handful of the mid-tier guys, with Soriano being the cheapest starter on the board today.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously get it. Dylan Cease, we talked about it. He has a high ceiling, right? And that's Dylan Cease since the beginning of Dylan Cease has gotten ownership. Like every start he's ever made, he's even throughout last year, how with a 5+ ERA, he got a lot of ownership. So I'm okay with it in tournaments. I'd rather live in that 8K tier. I like your Soriano call. There's obviously some strikeout appeal, 5+ strikeouts in 4 straight starts for Soriano. And in all but one of those games, he's had at least 18 fantasy points, which you're very happy with at $7,300. The only other name I'd mention is Jose Berrios, who I briefly touched on. It's been a weird season because he's been good, but the strikeouts are way, way down. Mm-hmm. He has been better on that front in Toronto. And obviously there's strikeout upside when it comes to facing Pittsburgh. Like Pittsburgh has a 25% strikeout rate. They're second to last in OPS and WOBA against right-handed pitching. And Berrios is home where he's been lights out. So
that would be the only get some wins, those last 3 starts would look even better, right? To be up over 20 fantasy points in 2 of the 3 there against Detroit and Baltimore. Instead, he takes a loss, giving up 2 earned against Detroit, and then Baltimore gives up 2 earned and gets a no decision. So you're hopeful today Toronto's offense can put some runs on the board against Bailey Falter and put Jose Berrios in a spot to give us another 20+ fantasy point effort there. So I'm in agreement with you. I also think Luis Severino can be in that conversation as well at 8K. So I don't think you need to spend up. And, obviously ownership kind of agrees with this. Ronel Blanco is getting single-digit ownership here today because no one's like, I'm not spending 10 grand on him. We're going to go mid-tier here. So that's it for pitching here. Anybody else you wanted to mention, or are you ready to move over?
No, let's head over to catcher.
All right, catcher. Again, usually a spot we look to spend down. Where are some of your favorite catcher plays for today?
I mean, if you want to spend up, obviously Will Smith is kind of like an anomaly in terms of catchers. He's been hitting a lot of home runs lately, 3 in his last 2 games, 5 in his last like 7 overall. So if you want to spend up to Will Smith, I think, you know, that is a viable approach. Same thing goes for Danny Jansen if you're stacking Blue Jays. You mentioned Sean Murphy last night. I'm not I guess I'm not surprised he's in the lineup. Travis d'Arnaud had really good numbers against left-handed pitching this year, so that's kind of where. But Murphy 37. Something I found interesting today when I was looking at the Boston versus Maeda matchup was Kenta Maeda struggles against right-handed bats, and we've known Connor Wong kind of since last year was a notoriously good same split hitter,
Yeah.
and I know he's been struggling of late. But even throughout a slump, he's hitting 322 with an 823 OPS.
Yeah.
And guess what? Hitting third tonight against a guy who has allowed a ton of power to right-handed bats. So unfortunately, Boston has like 2 that matter.
Yeah, Tyler
And
O'Neill's on the IL, unfortunately. Otherwise, it would have been a bingo night for him, you know?
yeah, I mean, the Boston righties that we're looking at here are Connor Wong and Rob Refsnyder. And like neither both look, hands up, good for both of those guys for having great seasons. Good for both of them. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, you know, those are the 2 righties who
Do
are
we got
today.
Saddam Raphael in the lineup today or no?
I think he's hitting 9th.
Okay.
Yeah, he's hitting 9th. Your boy Hamilton hitting 8th.
There you go. To your point, though, yeah, Connor Wong this year, again, he's hitting well anyways, with 302 batting average against right-handed pitching, a 450 slug. So, this is the right split. I think even last year we looked
It
at
was
it.
last year. Yep.
Yeah,
Last year
yeah.
it was better, I think.
But it was also really good at home. Like he had really
Yep.
good power numbers at home because he just loved the green monster there. So, yeah, I'm with you there on Connor Wong for sure. If you want to go down even further, any other like pure punt plays for you today?
I would like where do we got? Kybert at 27.
Yeah,
Would probably be the punt. Now, I like Tanner Bybee. I think Tanner Bybee is a good pitcher, but he has been pretty deficient at facing lefties. I know Kybert's obviously had like kind of a poor season, but he's been really good outside of yesterday when I stacked the Nationals.
right.
And not that it hurt. Like I played good players. The Nationals actually that did something, but not Kyber was not one of them. But against right-handed bats this year, Tanner Bybee 281 average allowed, 840 OPS. So I have a little interest in Kybert hitting in the middle of that lineup. That would be my punt catcher.
Sure. Over at first base, obviously you have your spend ups, you have the Dodgers bats. You don't need to go too much into why their core plays here. The Mets are a little bit healthier than maybe I would have expected, getting Alonso in the lineup. Lindor played yesterday. Does Pete Alonso interest you here against Jordan Montgomery?
The Mets interest me, which is super scary. They made like 47 roster moves today.
Yeah.
And not that matters, but like just to like peel back the curtain on what's happening in
Yeah,
on
shake
that.
up the team,
Dude, things do not look good. But yeah, I mean, Pete Alonso is definitely interesting and an interesting part of the stack. Like, I'm not playing Alonso, I think, as a one-off because I think he's like my 4th favorite Met, which is scary to say because he's probably their best player when he's going good, but he's not as going as well as like Lindor, who went off yesterday. JD Martinez has been good against lefties, and Mark Vientos has been good against lefties. So I think Alonso works perfectly in a Met stack, but I'm not like full bore Alonso in all formats.
Okay. Where else are we looking when it comes to the top guys?
I mean, I'm definitely in on Naylor, even though it's lefty lefty. I mean, we've talked about Corbin for I what does he have on Nationals ownership that he just keeps? I mean, dude,
Contract.
it is great. I guess
Probably still getting paid
True.
$30
A
million.
lot. Yeah, a lot of money. That's true. A lot of money. Yes, Patrick Corbin is definitely getting paid a lot of money. That's fair. He's the Omir Ashik of baseball. But yeah, I mean, Naylor, lefty lefty, elite run producer, hitting in the middle of that lineup, and I think Cleveland got a little deeper today because they've activated Stephen Kwan, and Kwan's leading off tonight. So, like, And we know what Stephen Kwan's how he started the year, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. Even better, deeper Cleveland lineup. We still have all our boys in the lineup, John. Don't worry. Tyler Freeman, David Fry.
I took the over half an RBI for Jose Ramirez today and all the pickup articles that I put down because they were all like boosted props. The Demon prop over on Prize Picks. It was a Scorcher play over on Underdog. It was like 1.9x on Sleeper.
Ooh.
For the league's leader in RBI,
Yep.
Jose
Yeah.
Ramirez. So
15 in his last 10 games.
yeah, 59 RBI on the year. I was like, yeah, I'll take all these boosted payouts on Ramirez against Corbin here. This is the final year, by the way, of Patrick Corbin's career, probably. He's
Just-
getting paid $25 million, but his contract is done this season. So
Okay. Well, shout out to Patrick Corbin for finessing the system for this.
yeah, $150 million over the last 5 years is good for one of them.
Yeah.
All right, so there's that. Obviously, if you're looking at the top, mid-tier options for you. I know you mentioned you were a Savale guy, but you have Ryan O'Hearn there, $4,300 hitting third today.
Yeah, if I'm playing Orioles, it's lefties. That's what's given Savali issues. I like Savali, but undoubtedly lefties have given him issue, and we have Ryan O'Hearn hitting third, who hits righties well.
Yeah.
And the one thing we can always say about like the newish park in Baltimore is that lefties didn't get affected here, right? Like the wall didn't get pushed back even further, like left field did. So I like the left-handed bat still for Baltimore.
Agreed. Right below him, also is Nathaniel Lowe. They got Sixto Sanchez on the mound for them here today for Miami. Again, Texas Rangers offense certainly starting to heat up. Corey Seager, unconscious at the plate at the moment, and a guy like Lowe benefiting. Obviously can benefit from this matchup.
Yeah, it is interesting. I will say that Sixto has been better against lefties. Not that it's been like,
right.
Not that it necessarily will matter or that it's significant, but righties have really done a lot of damage against Sixto this year. It has been a very disappointing year for Nathaniel Lowe, considering he just has 2 home runs and the batting average has dipped so far to 262. But
yeah,
it's a really good spot to stack Texas overall and get him going here. 4,200 is a good price. Other than Seager, Adolis, Semien, but it's not like an expensive team. Like he fits better than using all 3 of those 5K plays. So you probably
we talked Josh Lowe, and we'll get to him obviously as we move across. But he's hitting third.
Smith.
Josh Smith, not Lowe. Lowe, we'll talk about Lowe as well. Brandon Lowe, Josh Lowe, Josh Smith. A lot of names. It's a 13-game slate, man.
Nathaniel Lowe. It just doesn't.
There's so many things here.
Rob Lowe, shout out Rob Lowe.
What else you got for us?
First is not like, I don't think there's like much appeal to the rest of the position. I would play Kirilloff against Blanco, just given how good he's been. Jake Berger hitting second against Jose Urena. Same thing for Josh Bell. Like I'd be okay with either of those guys hitting second and third.
Sure.
You could play both of them if you wanted to play a stack. We know who Jose Urena is, right? Like his numbers versus peripheral numbers are 2 different things. So if you want to get to either one of those plays, I'm perfectly fine with it, but I don't like anything else.
Sure. Second base, obviously loaded up at the top. We have Altuve against Pablo Lopez at 56. We got Albies versus lefty and JP Sears at 52. Ketel Marte, Marcus Semien, your 5K and above group there.
Yes, this is a very attractive grouping. Albies leading off, obviously, again, hitting over 300 against lefties. Drink, if you heard that before.
Right.
Marcus Semien, although struggling, he's always actually been better against right-handed pitching. And again, we were just talking about it. Sixto has been worse against righty bats, so really good advantage for Semien leading off that game. Jimenez hits lefties fine, and Corbin stinks against them, so can definitely get there. I think there's a lot of appeal in this like upper tier. You even want to throw like Davis Schneider and Luis Ariz in there. Both guys leading off. I think both those guys are viable as well.
Sure. Mid-tier range, Terang, Cronenworth, the dual positional eligibility there. I think both of them are fine. If you're in on Minnesota, Edouard Julien there, $4,100. So definitely can get into the mid-tier range at second. Was there any value here? Are you a believer in Nick Gonzalez and the run that he's off to a start here?
Not really. It has been a very good season for him so far, and really, really good lately,
Yeah, seventh
especially.
overall pick a couple years ago. So
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not. I don't like the split for him in this.
yeah,
Barrios has been notoriously worse against lefties. Only other name I'd really mention, Isaiah Connor Falefa is fine at 3,400. He's been pretty good of late. Has a split advantage. I mean, some people are just better not in big cities, right? Like he was
true.
good in Texas, bad in New York, good in Toronto, right? Like
Hmm.
it's, I mean, just get him out of where you can be criticized 24/7.
Right.
He's the 15th most talked about Blue Jay every day, right? Like everyone else is being traded. Isaiah Connor Falefa is like, great, I could just hit.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would go there. Also, just slight hat tip to Luis Garcia Jr. For Washington. I mentioned it a little bit ago. Not like I'm a little bit intrigued by Washington in tournaments because Bybee struggles so much against lefties, and they do have a lot of lefties. Like 5 of their top 6: Abrams, Winker, Garcia, Kybert, and Rosario. And if you want to throw Joey Gallo in there, like
Yeah,
7 lefties tonight. I mean, that could be a problem for Bybee if he continues to struggle. And Garcia, 5 home runs, 280 average against right-handed pitching this year. So
sure.
slight hat tip to him.
Yeah, don't mind that. I mentioned David Hamilton. Obviously, I know you mentioned Maeda splits there, but speed wise for David Hamilton, if he gets on base, more very likely to run on Maeda. Anybody else for you for actual value down here, or you're moving on?
No, I mean, you could play Gavin Lux if he's in the lineup because Dakota Hudson can't get lefties out, but it's a very low floor.
Okay. Third base then. Have mentioned already Jose Ramirez is up there at $6,500 against Patrick Corbin. For me, the clear spend up option. What are your thoughts?
I don't have any other
Any
thoughts.
additional
I
thoughts?
don't
Yeah.
have no additional thoughts. Like I'm good with getting to Devers if you needed $800,
Sure.
but this is the best part of the split for Ramirez. He gets like arguably the worst pitcher on the slate. And I don't even know if it's arguable. It's the worst pitcher of the slate,
Yeah.
and he's on the
On a
heater
heater.
that he's on, right? Like it is what it is. He's just, I mean, again, play Devers if you want to pivot, play Riley if you want to pivot, but I think you're leaving some meat on the bone here.
I would agree with you. For me, Ramirez is the 1A play at third base here today. If you're going in mid tier and value, what are some of the targets for you?
I mean, I think like there's names that like you could play. Michael Garcia has been really, really good lately, and we know with the righty on the mound to be contrarian against Dylan Cease, if he gets on, he's going.
Yeah,
So Garcia Witt combination, I really like that stack. Um, I don't have much interest until we get to like Josh Smith,
sure.
who he hasn't been like it hasn't popped, but he's been really solid, really good against righties. He's been good against lefties too, but both home runs have come against righties. Almost 800 OPS, obviously a little speed, a little power, and when you are hitting in between Corey Seager, current form, and Adolis Garcia, I mean, you're going to get plenty of pitches to hit. Like Sixto Sanchez is going to look at it and be like, I wonder who I'm going to pitch to today. Like, I'm not going to pitch to those two
Right.
monsters. So let me pitch to Josh Smith. I like Smith at 4K. And then I honestly just go down to Mark Vientos, who you talked about the splits last night. They
Yeah.
are elite splits against left-handed pitching. And it's a small sample. But like, this is not Jordan Montgomery of the past few years, right? Like
No.
he has
Still
been
working his way through after not having spring training, you know?
right, and righties are really hitting him hard. 305 average, 850 OPS. I wish Vientos was hitting like I wish he was connected to JD Martinez tonight. Just wish they like switched him and Starling Marte, where we would have like a little 4-5 stack with him and JD Mart. But
Yeah.
hitting 6 is still a really good spot in the lineup, especially with how good he's been.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And Vientos would probably be him. And obviously, you mentioned IKF at second. You can play him there at third as well. No other value plays for me, though.
No.
Shortstop, again, another loaded position. We talked about this one. You have Henderson, Witt, Betts, and Abrams. You can play all of them, and that's fine. But why would you not find a way to get Corey Seager in your lineup right now?
Yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard to look at a guy with 8 home runs in 8 games and a 12-game hitting streak versus Sixto Sanchez and be like, well, that's going to be 9 straight game or 9 home runs in 9 games and a 13-game hitting streak.
Right.
So yeah, and I think the most interesting thing is you said it last night. He's listed 5th. He's the 5th. He's tied for 4th with Abrams in terms of price, but he's the 5th listed shortstop on today's slate, and he's the best per dollar of them all. Like Gunnar obviously has a good matchup against Savali. Bobby Witt is Bobby Witt. Mookie, you can always play Mookie, although it feels like all 8 of those home runs came in like the first 7
They
games.
really did, right? I mean, they were the first like series in Korea, right? Seoul series, right?
I thought he was going to break the record for home runs, and it's been
one homer over his last 10. It's funny because like you're right, you see 332, 952. You're like, oh, he's been smashing it. He really hasn't been, right? Like
he's been good, but like you're paying 5,900. Corey Seager has as many home runs as in the last 8 games as Mookie has all year, and you were paying $400 less.
Right.
And that obviously doesn't like necessarily matter, but that just goes to show you where Corey Seager is right now.
Right.
So yeah, Seager's the guy for me. And after that, like I really like Lindor today, and I said it on the pod last night, and you and I were like, oh, he's in the lineup. Was definitely in the lineup.
He was in the he was definitely in the lineup.
Surely in the lineup.
4 for 4 with a homer and a stolen base.
Yeah.
He was okay.
Yeah, he was pretty good. So he hasn't been great this year. Hasn't been great against lefties, even though that's been notoriously the better end of the split. But it's a good matchup against a guy struggling to get righties out. So I would definitely go to Frankie Lindor if I'm playing that stack.
Yep. That's fine by me. Just under him, has the Adames righty versus home split, which we've always played for years here. So you want to plug that in, that is fine. Bichette at $4,400 against Bailey Falter. I like 405,000 OPS for him the last 10 games, starting to really heat up and turn his season around a little bit. So far too cheap for Bichette at 44. Where else are you looking to go at short today?
Just a lineup note. Josh Smith is hitting 3rd. We just got Texas. Leody Tavera is hitting 5th.
Okay.
Little interesting. After the top 4, it's
move low down to 6. Yeah, we got Wyatt Langford in there at 7. Hyman, Duran, rolling it out there. So yeah, probably top 4 and
top 4 and maybe some Nathaniel Lowe, maybe sprinkle in there. But we'll
see, the thing is, it is Miami. It is Sixto Sanchez. So like that bullpen's trash. Starting pitcher's trash.
Yep.
Any of those guys could come through and be productive there. Orlando Arcia 3,400 gets the lefty matchup.
Yep, that would be.
We've targeted a lot.
That'd be my punt too.
Okay. Do we go back to the old Jose Iglesias lefty splits? Do you remember how good he was against left-handed pitching?
Yeah, I do remember. Once upon a time. I will say, like, I'm not saying he can't hit anymore, but
how old do you think he is?
He's 34. I had just looked as you were saying that. He's 34 years old. I was asking myself the same thing.
I mean, the last 2021 he hit 300 versus lefties. Last year he hit 295.
With caveat that being in Coors Field.
He had a 500 OPS, 500 slugging rather in 2020 against them. Just saying, it's always been a surprisingly strong like split. When you read them out, you're like, Jose Iglesias is doing that against lefties. What? Yeah, I'm not gonna play him either. I was just calling him out for the sake of he's back in baseball. He's back in baseball. All right, let's go to outfield here. We can have some fun with that. Obviously, you can pick your top price guy, fit him into your stack, your lineup builds, your one-offs. Not going to sit here and fight you on any of the top 7 guys listed on this list here.
What? I mean, I'm not playing any of them, John. They all stink.
Yeah. I wouldn't play Riley Green.
That's true. That's fair. That's a fair point. There's no reason he's 5,500 right now. Like, obviously, Ohtani's elite, like, as good as it gets, right? Lefties are killing Dakota Hudson. The only thing that Dakota Hudson does well is keep the ball in the yard. Sure. But, like, that will definitely be tested with Shohei Ohtani. Like, definitely be tested. But his, like, walk rate is, like, insane against lefties.
You know, the Dodgers Stadium is second in park factor home run rate behind Cincinnati.
That is quite interesting.
Right? I wonder if that has anything to do with like Ohtani being there versus but Cincinnati's number 1 and Dodger Stadium's number 2 for park factor home run rate.
That was what it was I feel like when the Angels were there, or when he was in the Angels too, like it was adjusted. Interesting thing on Dakota Hudson, John.
Sure.
He has a 16% walk rate against left-handed bats this year. He has a 13% strikeout rate against left-handed bats.
Not good.
So there's a difference there. I think Ohtani is probably the top spend up for me. And then Ozuna Adolis would probably be 2 and 3. Like, obviously, again, I'm not saying you can't play. You can obviously Judge is going home. Like this, Aaron Judge is homered every game in the last like month after my neighbor told me he should be traded. Yeah. And he's from Arson Judge is from San Francisco, where he was reportedly signed a contract. So
I think there could be some interesting contrarian stacks going up against Pablo Lopez. You know, generally we don't want to go against perceived top price pitching, right? But Lopez has really struggled. Jordan and Kyle Tucker at home. You know, Lopez is getting like almost 16% rostership here today. So obviously we'll update that closer to roster lock. Maybe that number moves down, but yeah, I have no problem stacking against Pablo Lopez today if I'm making multiple lineups and looking to be contrarian.
Okay, so I did the seasonal podcast with Matt Sells today.
Okay,
you can go check that out on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube right now. Caught Stealing podcast out right now with me and Matt Sells.
After the show, not right now, but
after the show, yeah. Or after lineup block when you're doing fantasy baseball research. And we were talking Pablo Lopez. This is maybe the most unlucky pitcher in baseball right
now.
Yeah. Yes. So his ERA the last 2 games was 11.5 and 12.6. The BABIP was 3.85, 3.75. He's had a 3.6 or worse BABIP in 4 of his last 5 starts. All of his expected FIPS outside of 1 has basically been below 3.7, and only 1 of those starts has been any good. Pablo Lopez is just running into awful bad ball luck because he's still striking everybody out. He's not walking anybody.
The problem is a lot of home runs.
The home runs are for sure an issue. But also, like, without looking even further into things, some of these home runs could come after a unlucky batted ball, right? Like, he allowed 10 hits to the Yankees. He allowed 8 to the Nationals. He allowed 7 to the Rangers. Like, that's a lot of hits, a lot of bad luck. The home runs are definitely an issue. I even said it on the morning show. I said I thought I liked the little Astro contrarian stack.
Yeah.
I've just pulled back a little bit because I think he's too good and he's just running horribly based on every peripheral metric. Other than the home runs.
Definitely is. Definitely, you look at his current ERA. Obviously, in the year, it's 5.25, but his expected ERA is 3.26. His xFIP's 3.03. His FIP's 3.80.
Sierra's below 3. The Sierra's below 3 on the year.
Yeah. The 16% home run rate is the highest of his career. He is giving up 1.9 homers per 9 to lefties. So, again, Tucker, Jordan, Houston kind of has that shorter wall and right for them to, go down the line on. So, he could go out there and shut him down. He's certainly capable. But, I do like Houston, like you said as well. Maybe a little contrarian play here today. Don't mind Jazz Chisholm against Jose Urania. We talked like maybe this game could be stackable with sort of how cheap like Bell and Berger are. Yep. You have Jazz obviously a little bit more expensive, but then you look at the Texas side, Josh Smith and Seager there, maybe get a little stack going, but I don't mind Jazz at 51. And then you talked obviously Fry, $4,800. Ridiculous numbers against lefties, and now they got him hitting. They have him hitting 5th today, so some opportunities to drive in some runs.
Yeah, he's the cover of the playbook today, and he's basically my plug and play of the day. The only like downside of David Fry was that he lost multi-position eligibility. Right, they just keep taking it away. Giveth, taketh, giveth, taketh.
Smaller slates, he gets play catcher. On larger slates,
I mean, he's played like 6 positions this year. He's even spent like time at third. He had like 1 game at third. He played some first. Like, But yeah, it's an elite spot for a guy who's crushing left-handed pitching. And this is Cleveland's my favorite stack of the day overall. I
Okay.
don't think it hurts again that Stephen Kwan's back in the lineup with how good he's
No,
been overall. So just more base runners for David Fry to drive in tonight.
sure. And they got Quan at 44, good
Yep.
price tag for him there. Schneider, we talked about leading off. For the Blue Jays, anybody else for you in this mid tier for at outfield?
Yeah, Weiler Abreu, 4,200. He's been really, really good outside of yesterday's game, but I mean, they were getting no hit. So, like, yes, you know,
That happens, right?
everyone was bad. So I would go right back to the Weiler Abreu. Well, Lane Thomas has been pretty incredible for fantasy since
Stolen
returning from
bases,
the
man.
IL. Dude, I'm very salty because I have him in my FSGA team and we're doing pretty good.
Sure.
But Lane Thomas wasn't like activated before like the 1 p.m. window, and I like
Yeah.
didn't. So now he's
On your
sitting on
bench.
my bench, and I've missed this last 4 games of Lane Thomas. But if you're playing Nationals, like he's hitting second again tonight, very hard not to get there with how hot he's run. And then JD Martinez at 4K, just another guy who in the Mets lineup that hits lefties really well, hitting over 300 again,
Yeah.
for a little 4 game hit streak. And we know long history of hitting left-handed.
I was gonna say, didn't he have like a 600 ISO for a season against
Dude,
Lefties or something like that?
I'll never forget that season. He had like an 1,800 OPS for like the whole year until like it ended like 1,500 OPS. I was like, wow, this is like the greatest hitting
Yeah, like,
seasons.
I think it was his second year maybe in Boston. Just well, I'm pulling it up now, just so I want a refresher on my own self here. Advanced numbers versus lefties. ISO it was 482.
Ridiculous.
2019, yeah, 482 ISO for the year, 1300, almost 1400 OPS, 887 slugging for the season against left-handed pitching in 2019. Hit 404 for the season. So, yeah, back in the day, hammered lefties. This year, though, 346 batting average against left-handed pitching. So he's still got it. 200 ISO, 538 slug. So feel free to plug in some JD Mart in your lineup if you wish to do so. I like Springer at 39. I don't mind Duvall at $3,800 there either. Our guy Freeman hitting second now, $3,700. Still happy to have him in the top part of that lineup. So some value plays we can get to.
Yeah, I have two of those. The only one I didn't write up was Springer there. Duvall's done every single bit of his damage this year. Every stat that you see for Adam Duvall has come against left-handed pitching this
Yeah.
year. 275, 387, 588 slash, 314 ISO, and all 5 home runs against lefties. We know JP Sears and what he does. He gets lefties out. He can't get righties out. His strikeout rate is literally cut in half, and his home run per 9 is 3 times it against righties than it is against lefties. So I really like Duvall. I really like Freeman, even though the numbers on the surface don't look great for Freeman. But a $3,700 two-hitter in a really good lineup against a really bad pitcher is very appealing. And I mentioned it atop like when we were talking about Boston earlier. I really like Rob Refsnyder as the day has gone on
Yeah.
because Kenta Maeda is really struggling against right-handed bats, and Refsnyder, who's been notoriously good against lefties like his whole career, is hitting 340 against righties this year. 880 OPS for righties against Kenta Maeda. Refsnyder hitting fifth tonight at $3,500 in Fenway Park. I really, really like Rob Refsnyder, 3,500, running pretty good right now. A little 4 game hit streak, 2 of them multi-hit games, including a home run. So give me Refsnyder here at $3,500.
All right, I can get behind it for sure. Other value plays, Jake McCarthy, $3,400, has some stolen base potential, but that's probably it for me. Was there any other value plays for you, like all the way down here?
I'll just spitball just a couple.
Sure,
We don't need to
sure.
go too in depth. Obviously, Leote does come into, I think, play hitting fifth in that Texas lineup,
Yeah.
$3,400. I think that's a very viable option. We have, who do I have written down here? Let me go go back to the playbook. I won't give out all the juice here, John. But Blake Perkins, if you're attacking Eric Fetty, $3,400 will be at the bottom of that lineup. Jason Hayward, $2,900 in the Dodgers lineup. We talked about Dakota Hudson's struggles against Hayward homered the other day, and then Kyle Stowers. Do we have a Baltimore lineup? Just lefties.
I don't see a Baltimore lineup yet. No, I don't see one yet.
Yeah, there's one.
Okay.
He's not in it.
There it is. Yeah.
They're sticking with Kowser and Mullins, despite both those guys
struggling. Yeah.
Not being able to hit at all.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit.
All right, let's get a lineup build here, and then we'll get to it. We were going, I think, Soriano for value, and then what's our spend pitcher today?
Spend Buehler or Ronaldo. I don't even know if we'll see if we need to get to Soriano, because I do like that 8K tier, but we'll plug Soriano and maybe.
Yeah, if we have money to move up. I think we ended up having money to move up on the pre-show, but we'll see where we land here. We'll go Buehler, cover boy, catcher spot for you.
We do have, I think it's Connor Wong, or if you want to punt, Kybert is hitting 5th. Yeah.
All right, let's go Kybert here. We'll save some money again. If we can move up, we will. Kybert was 27. First base.
Salute to everyone, by the way, for joining the show. Appreciate all you guys.
Yeah.
For
100%. We can actually work outside of positional play here. What's our number one overall spend up?
Jose,
I like it.
Jose, or Corey Seager. But I just felt like saying Jose a bunch of times.
Well, we did both. It gives us 38.60. So
now I guess the question is, Texas was our favorite stack early.
Yeah.
I think Cleveland for me now is my favorite stack.
Okay.
So like it's basically Ramirez or Lowe, right? Like or Josh Smith would be the I don't know why we both have. I just can't stop saying Lowe. It would be Jose Ramirez or Josh Smith at third base.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely in on playing Ramirez. Okay. If we do one spend, then what's our first base play?
Well, if we're playing Jose Ramirez, we're playing David Fry and probably Freeman, and just
do you want Quan or Freeman?
Quan's definitely better.
Freeman, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, Quan's been elite. Freeman's cheaper with a better split. Okay. But I don't think the split matters here because Corbin's been so terrible against both.
Sure. All right, so I guess it's a shortstop to play then here. We could go value. There is obviously Arcia here at 34 against Sears.
Yeah, I don't mind Arcia if we're not getting to Seager.
Okay. So there's that. We at second base then. Did we go IKF or do we spend up more towards the mid tier here?
I don't hate IKF. What if we did instead of Seager, so we still have Texas exposure? What if we get Semien at 5K, just to get some Texas into our lives here?
Sure. Okay, so that gives us 4K play for an outfielder and a first baseman.
There's a lot of cheap outfielders too. Ref Snyder at 35.
Yeah, I was gonna say even Duvall was there.
Duvall, right? Duvall. Yep.
Or just do some spelling errors there. So that would give us a $4,100 first baseman. Is that low?
He's
no, $100 off.
I think.
$100 off low.
Well, we can go from Buehler to Reynaldo to get to
Buehler to Reynaldo
as a pivot. I mean, we're building a tournament lineup, so you know, Walker Buehler is it right? Still the chalkiest pitcher of the day, so not a bad pivot.
Something like that. Keeping Semien in there, getting Nathaniel Lowe and Semien. Not true connectors hitting first and sixth, but getting exposure to that Texas offense there. Soriano, Lopez, Jose Ramirez, David Fry, Tyler Freeman for our Cleveland stack, a mini two-man stack of Duvall and Arcia, who hit fifth and sixth against JP Sears. So example lineup for everybody here today. Again, playbook's out. Make sure you check that out. Give us a follow on X, over on YouTube. Hit that like, subscribe, so you always get notified when we go live. We'll be back for Monday's show, everybody. Good luck with your lineups. We'll catch y'all later.